Good afternoon to you again, Douglas Murray. Just want to ask you about what's been going on back home here in the UK with Suella Braverman making these comments about the bias of the police, not choosing to ban this pro-Palestinian demonstration planned to take place this Saturday in the afternoon, not next to the Cenotaph, but on the day that is Armistice Day, one of the most, let's face it, sacred days in the British calendar, when we mark our fallen heroes who've given us the rights to do things like, you know, protest in the streets. Suella Braverman says the police are basically playing favourites. Even the Prime Minister has criticised the police, called Sir Mark Rowley, the Met Chief, into his office in Number 10 yesterday. Basically, word is he's saying, look, you should ban these marches, but if you're not going to, on your head be it if something happens. What do you make of Suella Braverman's language? What do you make of the decision of the Met Police to allow this march to go ahead?
I can't quite understand the treatment of Suella Braverman in the UK. It's extraordinary to me. She uses perfectly sensible, reasonable language to describe incredibly unsensible and unreasonable people, and is forever defamed by people as if she is spouting the most unbelievable far-right rhetoric. I mean, the criticism of her is endless. It's weird because, I mean, the same thing was done against Priti Patel in recent years when she was Home Secretary. It's a very strange treatment, as if anyone who's Home Secretary and actually has the interests of the British people at heart is in some way doing something unforgivable. I have to say I don't quite understand
There's
it.
a lot of pearl clutching at
yes,
everything she says, isn't there? When did you say most people are saying she's saying the quiet bit out loud?
Well, she's not even saying the particularly quiet bit. She's saying the obvious bit out loud. The Metropolitan Police is meant to protect the British public. And what happens time after time, whether it's Extinction Rebellion, end-time eco-cult lunatics, or Hamas on the streets of the UK, the Metropolitan Police seem to let them get away with it. I mean, you know, we just had one of our great national treasures, the Rokeby Venus of Velázquez, in the National Gallery, once again attacked, this time by two young maniacs with hammers who smashed into this unbelievably important masterpiece with hammers. And, you know, they get away with it. They almost certainly get away with it because the last couple of people who did that ended up getting a 500 quid fine for gluing themselves to a Van Gogh. This is a very shorthand example of what's happening in the UK at the moment. There's this weird standard on policing, and absolutely the Home Secretary is right to call it out. If you or I, Julia, or anyone else was to go onto the streets and call for the murder of any minority group, we would be arrested, we would be fined, we would be charged, we'd be bundled into the back of a police van. Well, as it happens, it wouldn't have occurred to either of us to do so. But why is it that week after week there are people on the streets of Britain calling for jihad? I send these out online all the time. There's sermon after sermon at mosque after mosque across the UK calling for jihad in the UK, calling for the extermination of the Jewish state, calling for the downfall of Britain. None of these people get their collars felt by the Met or any of the other police forces. Why is it that when people on the streets of London call for jihad, that we end up with the Metropolitan Police issuing a statement saying that their crack Quran interpretation squads at Central Met HQ have come up with a brilliant idea that saying jihad means a lot of different things, according to them. According to Inspector Plod, a big bearded fella shouting, "Jihad, jihad, slay the infidels," on the streets of London, could be saying that he's about to have an inner spiritual struggle with the precise nature of the deity.
I mean,
come on,
this is
Met
the
Police,
mad territory
on.
we are in. But if we have, and we're told, you know, veterans, some football hooligans, we're told EDL, Tommy Robinson are sending people saying, look, go to the Cenotaph, even though the Cenotaph's not on the route, it must be stressed, not on the route of this march, and the 11 o'clock, the march starts later. They're worried about the police aren't going to protect this, you know, this sacred memorial to our fallen war heroes. On the most, you know, important weekend of the year for them, that they feel they need to go and do that job themselves. If and when, let's face it, when there is trouble, we know who's going to get blamed, don't we?
Yeah, look, let me put this at its straightest. We have had 2 decades and more of whining from members of the Muslim community about their sacred places and sacred ideas. We have learned that you can't write novels if it offends any Muslim. You can't draw a cartoon if it offends any Muslim. You can't publish a book or make a speech if it offends any Muslim. OK, we've had decades of this now. Some of us are completely bored of it and think that in any case it was a con trick all along. Here's the thing. OK, here's the deal. We have sacred places too. We have sacred places too. One of them is the cenotaph. One is Remembrance Day. One is when we remember the fallen of 2 world wars. Those are our sacred places. And you think you can trample on them? You think you can prod us and insult us by marching on those days with your hate and your anti-Semitism and your anti-British sentiment? No. No, OK. We played fair, and they're not. The people doing the Million Man March are not playing fair at all. And the British public can see it. And I have said for a long time, if the British police will not protect the British public, if the British police will not protect, then it is up to somebody else. And it looks to me very much like the British public have realised that the Met Police and others recognise, and one of them said this on camera last week, that they're outnumbered at the anti-Israel protests. They're outnumbered. They don't know what to do, Julia. They're scared. They're terrified. Some of them, you can see it in the faces of the older cops, are pissed as hell that they are having to put up with this as young thugs scream insults in their face and taunt them. They don't look like they're enjoying this one bit. But here's the thing. If the Met don't look after the public and our monuments and sacred places, then it falls to the public to do so. And they might include people that you and I would not like, Julia. But this is what happens when law and order breaks down. This is what happens when the police will not police. This is what happens when the police allow people to call for the murder of people on British streets if they happen to be Muslim people doing the chanting, and would be round at your house in a nanosecond if you happened to be an autistic girl, for instance, who had said that a particular lesbian-looking cop looked like their lesbian nana. You'd get 9 people coming out to your house and hauling you out if you were that autistic girl. But you can be a big, bearded jihadi calling for jihad and the massacre of Jews anywhere in the UK, and you're fine. Well, lots of people have noticed that, and we do not like it.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think an awful lot of people will feel exactly the same way. To say all we want is the police and the government to do their job.
And can I just say one other thing very quickly, Julia? I'm in a country here at the moment, Israel, that is protecting itself and protecting its population. And I don't care to hear all the analysis from armchair pundits and others about what they should do and what they shouldn't. But I have a challenge to the British public on this. Why don't we learn to protect the British people as well? The Israeli government knows how to look after the Israeli people. The British government should know how to look after the British people. They should put us first, not everybody else.
Absolutely. Hear to that. Douglas Murray, live for us from Israel.